Could Princess Leonor ever marry a commoner? One day, Princess Leonor becomes Queen of Spain. She is standing before the nation, carrying centuries of royal history on her shoulders. But beside her is not a prince, not a king from another European royal family, not someone with a famous surname. Instead, it is an ordinary person, someone with no royal title, no royal blood, no palace background, a commoner. Would Spain accept it? Would the Spanish Constitution allow it? And perhaps most importantly, could Princess Leonor actually choose love over royal tradition? The answer may surprise you, because unlike the fairy tales many of us grew up watching, modern European royalty operates under very different rules. And when it comes to Princess Leonor, the question becomes even more fascinating because she is not simply a princess. She is Spain's future queen. Today we're going inside the fascinating question: could Princess Leonor ever marry a commoner? And stay until the end because we'll look at what could happen to her future marriage, her children, her royal duties, and even the Spanish monarchy itself. Introduction. Princess Leonor was born into a world where almost every important detail of her life was connected to duty. She was born on October 31, 2005, as the first child of King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia. From the beginning, her future was different from that of an ordinary Spanish child. She was raised knowing that one day she could become Queen of Spain. Her education has included prestigious schools, languages, military training, public appearances, and increasingly important constitutional responsibilities. But there is one part of life that remains deeply personal: love, marriage, and the person she eventually chooses to share her life with. That raises an intriguing question. Does being the future queen mean Leonor must marry another royal? Or could she marry someone completely outside the world of royalty? The short answer is, a commoner marriage is not automatically impossible, but there are important constitutional and historical considerations. And this is where the story gets interesting. What does the Spanish Constitution say? To understand Leonor's future, we first have to look beyond romance. We have to look at the law. Spain's constitution contains specific provisions concerning the crown and royal succession. One particularly important provision concerns marriage within the royal family. Article 57 establishes rules concerning succession and also states that those in line to the throne can be excluded from succession if they marry against the express prohibition of the king and the Cortes Generals. That means marriage isn't simply a private matter when you're talking about the future monarch. But notice something important. The Constitution does not simply say that the future Queen of Spain must marry a prince. There is no general rule saying Leonor can only marry another royal, and that distinction is extremely important. A marriage to a commoner would therefore not automatically mean that Leonor loses her place in the line of succession. The situation would depend on the constitutional requirements and the circumstances surrounding the marriage. In other words, royal blood is not necessarily a requirement. And modern European history has already shown us that royal love stories don't always follow the old rules. The world of royal marriages has changed. For centuries, royal marriages were often political arrangements. Kings and queens married to create alliances. Marriage could strengthen relationships between countries, could secure territories, could bring wealth and influence. And royal families frequently married other royal families. Love was sometimes secondary. But the modern monarchy is very different. Today, European royals increasingly marry people who come from outside traditional aristocratic circles. And perhaps one of the clearest examples is Leonor's own mother. Queen Letizia was not born a princess. She was born Letizia Ortiz Roca Solano, the daughter of a journalist and a nurse. Before marrying Felipe, she had already built a career as a journalist and television news presenter. She came from outside the traditional royal world. And yet she eventually became Queen of Spain. That fact alone makes the idea of Leonor marrying a commoner much less unimaginable. Her own family history demonstrates that Spain's monarchy has already embraced a major change in the traditional idea of royal marriage. Could Leonor follow her mother's path? This is where things become fascinating. Imagine Princess Leonor meets someone during her education. Maybe at university. Maybe through her military career. Maybe through friends. Maybe through an international event. He isn't royal. He doesn't come from an aristocratic family. He doesn't have a famous title. He's simply someone she genuinely loves and trusts. Would that automatically be a problem? Not necessarily. But being the future queen would make the relationship far more complicated than an ordinary romance. For most people, falling in love means getting to know someone privately. For Leonor, privacy is much harder. Every public appearance could generate speculation. Every photograph could become a headline. Every interaction could be analyzed. And if the relationship became serious, the person she loved would suddenly find himself under an enormous spotlight. His family could also attract media attention. His career could become a topic of public debate. His past could be examined. His social media activity could be analyzed. And even his friendships could potentially become news. That's the reality of marrying into a modern royal family. The real question isn't, can she? It's actually, would she want to? Because Leonor's future is not only about constitutional rules. It is also about responsibility. When she eventually becomes queen, her personal choices could have consequences for the institution she represents. The Spanish monarchy has experienced periods of intense public scrutiny. That means public confidence matters. A future queen would likely have to consider how her marriage affects not only herself, but also the crown. Imagine the headlines. Future queen marries commoner. For some people, that could be a beautiful modern love story. For others, it could raise questions about tradition. Would the spouse understand royal life? Would he be comfortable with constant attention? Would he support Leonor's constitutional responsibilities? Would he be prepared for diplomatic events, state visits and national ceremonies? Would he understand that sometimes the queen's duty has to come before personal preference? These questions could become more important than the person's social background. Because being a royal spouse isn't simply about marrying a famous person. It can involve an entirely new way of life. What would happen to her husband? Now here's something many people don't realize. If Leonor eventually married a commoner, that person would not automatically become king of Spain. This is an important distinction. Spain's constitutional system is based on succession to the crown. If Leonor becomes queen regnant, her husband would not automatically become a reigning king simply because he married her. He could potentially receive a title or role according to the arrangements established at that time, but his position would be different from Leonor's. And this reflects an important principle in monarchies. The crown belongs to the sovereign. Marriage does not automatically transfer sovereignty. So imagine the future. Queen Leonor walks into a major state ceremony. Millions of people are watching. She is the head of state. Her husband stands beside her. But the constitutional authority belongs to her. That would represent a powerful image of how much the Spanish monarchy has evolved. What about her children? And then we reach another fascinating question. What if Leonor married a commoner and they had children? Would those children still be royal? Yes. Their position would be determined by the constitutional rules governing succession. The identity of their father would not automatically erase their place in the royal family. In fact, if Leonor becomes queen and has children, her descendants could form the next generation of Spain's royal succession. So the idea of a future queen marrying outside royalty does not necessarily mean the end of the monarchy. It could actually demonstrate something else. That the institution can continue while adapting to modern society. And that may be one of the biggest challenges facing Leonor's generation. But there would still be pressure. Let's not romanticize this. If Leonor ever married a commoner, the relationship could face enormous pressure. Think about what happens when a normal celebrity starts dating someone. The media wants to know everything. Now multiply that attention by the fact that the person involved could become Spain's head of state. The scrutiny would be extraordinary. People could ask, who is he? Where is he from? What does he do? What does his family think? What are his political views? What does he believe? How did they meet? When did they fall in love? Are they really compatible? And perhaps the biggest question, can he handle life inside the Spanish royal family? Because love may bring two people together, but royal duty can test even the strongest relationship. Leonor's private life is still private. There is another important point. Princess Leonor's actual romantic life is not something we should invent. There have been rumors and speculation surrounding young royals throughout history, but rumors are not facts. unless Leonor herself or the royal household confirms a relationship. Claims about a secret boyfriend, engagement, or future marriage should be treated carefully. And that's especially important when discussing someone who is still young and building her public role. The more interesting question isn't, who is Leonor secretly dating? The more meaningful question is, what kind of marriage could work for Spain's future queen? That's something we can examine without pretending to know her private life. Would the Spanish people accept it? This may ultimately be one of the most fascinating parts of the story. Public opinion would matter. Some Spaniards might see a commoner marriage as a sign that the monarchy has entered a new era. They could say, why should a future queen have to marry a prince? Others might prefer someone who understands royal responsibilities from birth. And some people might not care about the person's background at all. They might simply want Leonor to choose someone who respects her, supports her, and understands the responsibilities of being queen. That could be the real test. Not the surname, not the wealth, not the title, but character. Leonor's generation is different. Princess Leonor belongs to a generation that has grown up in a very different Europe from the monarchs of the past. Social media has changed how people communicate. Traditional class boundaries have weakened. Women increasingly hold positions of political and institutional leadership. And the public expects royal families to be more relatable and transparent. That could influence the expectations surrounding Leonor's future marriage. She may eventually become a queen in a society where marrying for political alliances feels completely outdated. Instead, people may expect her marriage to be based primarily on personal compatibility. But there is a paradox. The more modern the monarchy becomes, the more important public trust becomes. So Leonor could have greater freedom in choosing a partner, while simultaneously facing greater public scrutiny over that choice. The biggest challenge. Here's the real challenge. Leonor would need someone who understands that he is not marrying an ordinary woman. He would be marrying the future Queen of Spain. That means there could be days when Leonor has to attend official ceremonies instead of enjoying private time together. There could be diplomatic events, national celebrations, military ceremonies, foreign visits, political transitions, moments of national tragedy, moments of national celebration. And through all of it, her husband could be standing beside her. The ideal partner wouldn't necessarily need a royal title, but he would need something much harder to find: the ability to live comfortably in the shadow of the crown without trying to compete with it. Could love actually strengthen the monarchy? This is perhaps the most surprising possibility. A commoner marriage could actually make the Spanish monarchy feel more connected to ordinary citizens. Queen Letizia's story already demonstrated how someone from outside royalty could become part of the institution. If Leonor someday followed a similar path, supporters could see it as another symbol of modernization, could send a powerful message that the future Queen of Spain is not required to live entirely inside a royal bubble, that she can connect with someone based on personality and character, that the monarchy can evolve with society. But there is another side. If the marriage went badly, the consequences could be enormous. A royal divorce or major marital crisis wouldn't remain a private family matter. It could become a national conversation. That's the difficult reality of royal life. Personal happiness and public responsibility can sometimes collide. So, could Princess Leonor marry a commoner? After everything we've explored, let's return to the original question. Could Princess Leonor ever marry a commoner? The answer is yes, it is legally and historically conceivable. There is no simple constitutional rule requiring Spain's future monarch to marry another royal. But her marriage would be subject to constitutional considerations, and the consequences of her choice would be far greater than those faced by an ordinary person. Her partner would have to understand the extraordinary life that comes with being connected to the Spanish crown. And Leonor herself would have to balance something that every modern monarch eventually faces: personal happiness versus public duty. Perhaps she will marry someone from another royal family. Perhaps she will marry an aristocrat. Perhaps she will marry someone completely unknown to the public today. Or perhaps she will choose to remain unmarried for some time. At this point, nobody outside her private circle can know. And that's exactly why the subject is so fascinating. Princess Leonor's future marriage could become one of the most closely watched royal stories of her generation. But perhaps the most important question isn't whether she marries a prince or a commoner. It's whether she finds someone capable of understanding the extraordinary responsibility that comes with standing beside the future Queen of Spain. Because one day, the woman who is currently Princess Leonor may sit on the Spanish throne. And when that day comes, the person standing beside her could tell us something powerful about the monarchy itself. Will Spain's future queen follow centuries of royal tradition? Or will she write a completely different chapter? Only time will tell. But now I want to hear from you. If Princess Leonor eventually falls in love with a commoner, should she be free to marry him? Or do you think Spain's future queen should marry someone who already understands royal life? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoy fascinating stories about Princess Leonor, Queen Letizia, King Felipe VI, and the future of the Spanish monarchy, make sure you subscribe. Because there is much more to discover about the woman who may one day become Queen of Spain. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.